Hi, welcome to this course. I want to give you a little overview in this video of the topics we're going to be addressing in this course and the skills that you can expect to develop. So first of all, there are two parts to this course. There's getting grounded and there's staying grounded. Those are two kind of different things. So when we talk about getting grounded, what I mean by that is really developing the mental habit of bringing the attention back to the body, back to the present moment, again and again and again and again and again through your formal seated practice. So we're going to start the first section with instruction, setting some context for the meditations and different practices we're going to be doing, and then you'll come to a section with all the meditations in it. So if you want to just get started on some meditations now, go ahead and open up that meditation section and just download all those meditations. They're free to keep and use as you want to. And I really hope that they help you develop this skill of groundedness, coming back to the present, back to the body. So when I talk about this formal practice, my background is in meditation, and that's, I think, often the easiest thing to teach in an online course like this. But there are a lot of other contemplative exercises that you could also do to help cultivate this skill of really coming back into the present moment and connecting with yourself, with what's real. So for instance, you might enjoy Qigong. That can be a really fabulous way of cultivating attention, bringing the attention back into the body, often using the breath, so it's a bit similar to meditation in that way. But you're also cultivating movement. If you are into the idea of qi or prana, you're also cultivating prana as you do qigong or yoga. Many people enjoy labyrinth walking, and that can be very contemplative. So the main thing about the practices we're going to talk about in the first section is that they are all practices to which you give your undivided attention. So whether you're meditating, doing qigong, walking a labyrinth, the main thing is you're not doing that and something else. So if you're listening to a podcast while you walk a labyrinth, unless the podcast is kind of like guiding you through the spiritual journey of the labyrinth, I would not consider that a type of formal practice. A lot of people love to go for a walk in the woods. That could be a contemplative practice if you're really using it as a way of coming back to center, bringing your mind into the body, cultivating these skills of really bringing yourself back to the present moment again and again. If you're walking through the woods and you're kind of thinking about your to-do list for the day, you're not really trying to cultivate a particular skill as you walk, or again, you're listening to a podcast, listening to music, I wouldn't consider that like a formal session of contemplative practice. So we'll dig more deeply into this during the videos on that first session, or on that first topic of getting grounded. But the short story here is formal practice is really when you devote your entire attention to the skill of coming back to center, to the breath, to the body, to the present moment, however you want to do that again and again and again. The second part of this course is all about staying grounded. And I think often people talk about meditation and they assume that if you sit down and you meditate, then it's necessarily going to start making a difference in your life. And often it does, but for some people it might not. So we're going to talk about the difference between one seated meditation practice and making that into something that really begins to influence your entire life and the way it feels to be you in the world. So we're going to talk here about what are called informal practices. So basically taking the skills that you've cultivated, walking a labyrinth, practicing meditation, doing some qigong. I recommend, if there's any form of like seated meditation that works for you, trying to use that because it's really helpful for cultivating the fine attention that you're then going to use variations of if you're doing some movement-oriented practice like qigong, walking a labyrinth, or whatever it is for you. So this second section is going to talk about some of the ways that we can use those contemplative skills we built in the first section and apply them to daily life. And obviously, if you're just learning all this stuff, you're going to have to start with the first section and then move to the second section. But if you're kind of familiar with meditation, you might want to listen to a couple of lessons from the first section and then start listening to the second section to get some ideas for how to incorporate meditations into your daily life. something that sets this course apart from some other meditation courses is that we're not just going to talk about how to meditate, we are also going to talk about what can keep us from developing these contemplative skills and what can really undermine our efforts to have a more mindful lifestyle. So where the first part of the course is really more about process. You're learning how to work with your mind, how to bring it back, how to really cultivate that skill of settling the mind in the body. In the second part of this course, we're going to take on two big, more conceptual topics. The first of them is a negativity bias, and this is really important to understand if you're trying to make a difference in the way that you experience the world. The negativity bias, very briefly, is the idea from neuroscience and psychology, and it's an interdisciplinary idea, that basically our brains are wired to pay more attention to experiences that are negative. So a lot of us, if you start listening to yourself talk, most of it is negative. And that's not because we're negative people or there's something wrong with us or, all these negative self-talk type thoughts are true. It's because we are evolutionarily designed to pay more attention to threats than to opportunities. But the good news is there are things that you can do in your life to start emphasizing the positive instead and counterbalance that negativity bias. So that's the first big topic that we're going to talk about in the second section. The second big topic is distractions and how to begin to create a more peaceful and focused environment inside your mind during the rest of your day. So for that part, we're going to talk about a technique that I use at work called the pomodoro timer. And it's a pretty well-established method of working on just one thing at a time and then taking short breaks. So for a lot of people who have a desk job or some kind of job that involves a lot of mental focus, that can be a really helpful way of, taking the 8 hours or 10 hours or however long you spend in a day, and instead of trying to multitask and just having your mind eat up a lot of energy so that you get home and you're tired and you just don't have the energy to do other things in your life, you're actually going to be saving more energy, being more focused at work, and it's kind of a way of applying mindfulness to what you do in your daily life. We're also going to talk about other forms of digital distractions and some things that you can do to minimize the impact of just living in a world where all of us are on these amazing devices pretty much all day long. So that can have a really, really negative impact on our mental states, our mental health, and also our happiness. So we're going to talk about some other ways of noticing our behavior with our digital devices and trying to maximize the amount of time spent using them in the ways we want to use them instead of just being drawn into our devices in maybe a way that's more compulsive or more addictive. So, thank you so much for signing up for this journey, and I will see you in the next lesson.